Payload, also known as the objective, is something that most players in Overwatch despise the most, something that nobody ever wants to push. Except for support players. And tank players? Wait, why is everybody pushing the payload? Are you guys not aware that it doesn't move any faster with more than 3 players on it? You know you can be doing something more productive like spawn camping the enemy team, right? You should all know that it's best if you— Ow! Wait, what's this? Press to unlock capture speed times. I mean, it is a red button, so why would I not press it, right? So, as most of you, I hope, are aware, the payload and other objectives in Overwatch have a limit of how many players you can have on it until it reaches maximum possible capping speed. But I wanted to ask myself, if theoretically speaking there was no limit on how many players you could have on the objective, how differently will the game be played? What will happen if the capture speed increased even with 4, 6 or even 8 players? Let's find out. First, let's take a look at Payload. The objective for this game mode is quite simple. Push the payload from start to finish, and the time it takes for you and your team to push it to the end is directly correlated by how many players you've had on the payload throughout the attack phase and how many times the defending team has halted your progress. Unless you got fully spawn camped by them, but we'll not be looking at that scenario for obvious reasons. And what you may find interesting is that not all payload and hybrid maps are of the same size and distance. Some maps can be finished as fast as around 2 minutes. With Gibraltar being the fastest payload map you can finish, while Havana is not just a perfect map where you can lose all your sanity to your favorite sniper heroes, but also it takes you an insane amount of time to push from A to C. 3 minutes. Which is enough time for you to go and make yourself a sandwich while sitting on this huge pile of metal that heals you. Yes, the payload heals you, fun fact of the day, for all 5 of you who didn't know that. And something that I have discovered for myself is that not all payloads move at the same base speed. Some move at 1.35 meters per second. No, my fellow Americans, I'm not gonna convert these to freedom units. While others move at a bit faster rate of 1.5 and 1.65 meters per second. So technically speaking, pushing from start to finish on Havana with 3 players on the payload takes almost the same amount of time as on Gibraltar with just 1 player. The more you know. But anyway, as I've mentioned, the more people you have pushing the payload, the faster it goes forward, and with each additional player the payload moves 16.5% faster. The same cannot be said about other game mode with a similar functioning but more handsome looking objective. Push. So unlike Payload, which reaches a speed limit with a maximum of 3 players, Pushbot does not require more humans, omnics or non-humans telling him how to do his job, capping his maximum speed at 1.22 meters per second, with just 1 player. Also, another fun fact, in the workshop setting, the barricade push speed is set to default 110% instead of 100, and that is due to a push mode change in June of 2024, where they made this Chungus guy slightly faster. Previously, he pushed it at 1.10 meters per second. That's a lot of fun facts for today. And no, he does not heal unless you play Mizuki and push the bot 24/7. And any game modes that have a capture point work similarly to Payload, with a maximum of 3 players needed to capture at full speed. Not now capture the flag game mode, barely anyone even knows about your existence, go back to where you came from. So you might be asking yourself a question, why is there a capture speed limit in the first place? You see, when playing this game, you obviously want to enjoy shooting other players and doing silly things. And you know what takes away all the fun? The objective. Yes, you guys as well, but also, yes, it is essential to capture it so that you can prolong your fun and possibly win a match. But you know what is opposite of fun? Sitting on this thing for the entirety of a game. When it comes to having fun and winning a game, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, or all eggs on your payload in our case. If you were to have all players standing on a payload, the enemy team will just rush in and stop you from capturing the point. Ideally, it's best to leave one person on the payload while the rest of the team pushes forward, preventing the defending team from contesting the payload, resulting in a further distance pushed. I feel like I'm becoming a coach at this point. So what I'm trying to say here is that if there was no limit as to how many players can push the payload or pushbot for maximum possible speed, then it would result in a quite boring gameplay loop where you are encouraged to have a full team on it. You can ask Team Fortress 2 bots what their opinion about this whole thing is.
You gotta be kidding me! This sucks!
Which means they'll have more time on it, resulting in them having an advantage over the team that assigns just 1 payload princess on the pushing duty. If that was the case, you may as well rename Escort to something more fitting like Protect the President, Babysit Simulator, or I don't know, Dead by Daylight, something like that. Oh yeah, and speaking of pushing, remember how I just said that Gibraltar is the map you can finish the fastest? Well, it takes even less time to finish a push map. Theoretically speaking, it is possible to win on Colosseo in just about 2 minutes and 3 seconds. And you can probably imagine how much faster faster these maps will go if there weren't any capture speed restrictions. So, now that we know how crucial it is to have an objective speed cap in Overwatch, it only makes sense to just throw all these laws of physics into a trash bin and see how different things would look like had there been no restrictions at all.
Hey there, 8-Bit Popcorp here. Just want to say that if you're enjoying my silly videos, feel free to subscribe or become a Patreon or channel member. It helps me out a lot and I always try my best to make these videos as fun and interesting as I can. Thank you, and let's get back to the video.
For this experiment, we'll be using Watchpoint Gibraltar to test the new capture speeds. I'm also not going to count the total amount of time the payload stops for at the checkpoints. Assuming one player is pushing the payload on this map, it will take 52 seconds to reach and capture the first point, 50 seconds for second and 54 for the last point. We already know that the payload moves at 100% speed when one player is on it, and each player increases the payload speed by 16.5%. So, assuming that we are playing 5v5 and have a whole team staying on payload, it would result in payload speed going from 1.65 to 2.7 meters per second, or 166% overall, significantly reducing the time it takes to capture each point. However, we can push the amount of players even further. If we switch from 5v5 to 6v6, we receive an extra player, increasing the payload speed and reducing the time to push. And things can get quite silly if we also add Ash and Echo to our roster. Let's just create a situation where you on the attacking team use 2 Bobs on the payload. You will end up having a whole total of 8 players on the payload for just 10 seconds, resulting in a total push time to the first point of just 27 seconds. I kinda wish they never removed Mauga's 2 hearts perk, then we could exceed it to 9 players instead, but oh well. Okay, but for the sake of keeping things somewhat realistic, let's just stick to 6 heroes on the objective. What is also important to note is how will the new capture speed affect the defenders coming back from the spawn to the objective. If we were to take a hero without any mobility like Ana, it takes about 2 seconds for her to go from spawn to the first payload checkpoint. So, in a theoretical scenario where the defending team begins a match by preventing the attacking team from pushing the payload from the get-go, also known as spawn camping, we can try and calculate how many team fights can the defending team have before the attacking team captures the first checkpoint, assuming that each team fight results in the defending team getting wiped off. So, what I did was simulate the situation where I stand on the payload, die, respawn and touch the payload again, and repeat that until the attackers have captured the point. And then do it again, but the next time put an additional player and repeat all over again until I do it with 6 players. And the results are quite interesting. If your team consists of heroes with low to no mobility, and assuming the payload is being pushed by just one player, then you are guaranteed to get at least 2 touches on the payload. If there are 2 or more players pushing the payload, then you only get 1 shot. Switching from low to fast and mobile heroes increases the amount of recontests you can get per attacking player on the payload, with at least 2 recontests being available to you at 1 to 4 attackers on the payload. And by having fast heroes and heroes with speed boost abilities, as you may have already guessed, increases the odds as well. Here's the list of payload and hybrid maps showing how fast it will take to finish the map without player speed cap. And if you think that looks quite fast, then let's go quickly check what's happening on Colosseo. Wow, he's just speeding through. So, if you are wondering how long does it take for you to get this bot to the end with the speed limit, it will be just under 2 minutes. Without counting the time it takes for the bot to scratch his own butt upon capturing the checkpoint, which is 8 seconds. And 12 seconds on New Queen Street, due to the fact that this map is the shortest push map in the game, at 128 meters to push to the end. Anyway, it takes just 54 seconds of your precious time to get the barricade to the first checkpoint. But without any speed limits, it can theoretically be reached as fast as 30 seconds. Which again means that if the opposing team gets fully wiped out, they get 1 chance to stop the enemy team from capturing it. As for the last point, it's only about 3 seconds longer to push from the first checkpoint, but considering that the barricade gets closer to your spawn, meaning you have less distance to walk, it will be possible to stop the enemy push at least 2 times. So yeah, this also essentially means that if you win the first team fight on New Queen Street, you're pretty much guaranteed to immediately capture the first checkpoint. But also, we should not forget about Pushbot's own movement speed without the barricade, which is 5 meters per second. And if you know anything about movement speed in Overwatch, you will know that the majority of Overwatch heroes move at 5.5 meters per second, with the exception of 3 heroes who instead move at 6 meters per second. The reason why Pushbot's speed is only 5 meters per second is due to the fact that if it were to be greater than hero speed, the Pushbot will simply run away from us, causing the players to play catch with this bot, and it also would look quite weird, as if the bot is trying to catch breath between his little jogs. And here's the list of push maps showing how fast it will take to finish the map with 1 to 6 players. And finally, we have control point specific maps. These ones are, for the most part, work in a similar way to Payload, where having more players on a point results in faster capture speed. However, it is not that interesting when it comes to control game mode itself, due to the fact that it already takes a relatively short amount of time to capture a point. So, as you may have guessed, if we were to apply the same logic, then it will basically be possible to cap a point in a few seconds. However, what you may not know is that when it comes to hybrid maps, the capture speed is different on most maps, which ranges from 20 to 32 seconds. King's Row being the slowest to capture, while Eichenwald is the fastest. And to be honest with you all, I have not managed to find any correlation between the maps and different capture speed times. At first, I thought it may have something to do with how long it took to go from spawn to point. It would have made sense for point to be captured slower if defenders had to walk for longer than the attackers. But nope. The walk times from spawn to point on each side are quite consistent between all maps. And same for base payload speeds. This is something I have not managed to figure out. Let me know if you have any theory on why this is a thing. But otherwise, if there was no limit on how fast you can capture the objectives, it's safe to say that the defenders would have been kinda cooked trying to defend their point, as a lost teamfight would pretty much secure the point within seconds on some maps. I feel like I'm missing something. Is there something else I was supposed to discuss in this video? Ow! Self-pushing payload. What does that mean? It means, what if the payload pushed by itself, if the attackers simply touched it and then left it? You know, just like in that game with superheroes and neuron activating hero skins. Oh, gotcha. So, we already know the payload speed at 1 to 6 players, so theoretically speaking, if Overwatch borrowed the mechanic from Marvel Rivals that allows the payload to move by itself as long as the attacking team touches it once and it is not contested by the defenders, how fast will it move and how long will it take for it to cap the first point by itself? So it makes total sense to have payload move half the speed of one player. So in other words, 0.82 meters per second. And also these values on other maps. So in the case of a map like Route 66, it will take 127 seconds for payload to push itself to the first point. And about 6 minutes for the whole map. Holy moly. But hey, it's not that bad. I wonder how things would look like on the slowest map. Yeah. So with all that said and done, let us playtest these changes with my community on Discord that you all should join. Sir, we have a problem. Not now, Jerry. I'm about to ping everyone to come and playtest these crucial game mode changes. Sir, that's the thing. It is not possible to do so. Wait, what? Why is it impossible? It's just not. Why not, you stupid bastard? It's not in the workshop, sir. It's the global option that cannot have conditions, variables, and other coding language stuff that I don't know about. Ah, shoot. Yeah, unfortunately, it is not possible to playtest these changes due to the lack of settings for the objectives. Please, sir, please add them. Thank you. So, in conclusion, it won't be fun for either attackers or defenders to have the whole team permanently sit on this payload. But also, remember to have someone pushing this little guy at all times. Thank you for watching, and thank you to my channel members for supporting videos like this one. And as always, I shall see you in the next one.